It was a humid August evening in Channelview, Texas, when a young boy with a football tucked under his arm stood on a patchy field, watching his father bark orders to a group of high school players. The boy's eyes, wide with curiosity, tracked every sprint, every tackle, every snap. He wasn't just a spectator, he was a student of the game, even at 8 years old. That boy was Jalen Alexander Hurts, and though he didn't know it then, he was already laying the foundation for a journey that would take him from the sidelines of a small-town field to the pinnacle of American football, an NFL champion. This is the story of Jalen Hurts, a tale of resilience, reinvention, and relentless pursuit of greatness. A narrative that proves sometimes the quietest resolve can produce the loudest victories. Roots in Channelview. A football family. Jalen Hurts was born on August 7, 1998 in Houston, Texas, but his story truly began in the nearby community of Channelview. It was there, in a tight-knit household shaped by discipline, faith, and football, that the foundations of his character were built. Jalen was the second child of Pamela and Avarian Hurts Sr., and from an early age it was clear that his life would be deeply intertwined with the game of football. His father, Avarian Hurts Sr., was the head football coach at Channelview High School. A towering figure in both stature and presence, Coach Hurts was known for his booming voice, demanding practices, and relentless commitment to excellence. His teams weren't just trained, they were molded, and that same molding extended to his own sons. Jalen grew up watching his father coach with intensity and heart, instilling in him a deep respect for preparation, strategy, and perseverance. His mother, Pamela, brought a powerful counterbalance to the family dynamic. As a special education teacher, she embodied compassion, patience, and an unshakable belief in her children's potential. She nurtured Jalen's emotional intelligence, helping him understand the value of resilience, humility, and kindness, traits that would later define him both on and off the field. Jalen's older brother, Avarian Jr., was also a standout athlete and quarterback. He blazed a trail for his younger sibling, serving as both a role model and a benchmark. Watching his brother suit up and lead teams on Friday nights left an impression on Jalen, who admired Avarian Jr.'s poise and leadership. It wasn't long before Jalen began to chase that same dream with equal parts determination and grit. By middle school, it was obvious that Jalen wasn't an ordinary athlete. He possessed a quiet intensity, a laser-like focus that belied his age. He hated losing more than he loved winning, and every mistake was an opportunity to grow. His father recognized something rare in his son, not just talent, but a burning desire to lead and a maturity beyond his years. At Channelview High School, Jalen's star began to rise. Under the guidance of his father, he took over as quarterback and quickly made an impact. His ability to both pass and run made him a nightmare for defenses. He was the kind of player who could shift momentum with a single play, evading tackles, extending drives, and turning broken plays into highlight reels. As a junior, he earned District 21 to 6A overall MVP honors, solidifying his reputation as one of the top dual-threat quarterbacks in Texas. Off the field, Jalen showcased his strength in another arena, powerlifting. Competing as a regional finalist in his weight class, he proved his physical strength matched his mental fortitude. In 2015, Jalen made a decision that would shape the next chapter of his life. He committed to the University of Alabama. Under the legendary coach Nick Saban, Alabama was the pinnacle of college football, a program known for its fierce competition, high expectations, and a next-man-up philosophy. For Jalen, it was the ultimate proving ground. What lay ahead at Alabama would challenge Jalen in ways he couldn't yet imagine. Moments of triumph, moments of heartbreak, and a journey that would ultimately define his resilience. But one thing was certain. From the backyard fields of Channelview to the national spotlight, Jalen Hurts had always been ready. He was forged in discipline, lifted by love, and destined to lead. Crimson Tide. Rising, freshman phenom. When Jalen Hurts stepped onto the University of Alabama's campus in the fall of 2016, he was just 18 years old, wiry, focused, and fueled by quiet determination. He wasn't the most highly touted quarterback recruit in the country, but what he lacked in hype, he made up for in heart. He had a chip on his shoulder and a dream burning in his chest. And he knew he had something to prove. Alabama head coach. Nick Saban wasn't the type to hand out starting jobs, especially not to true freshmen. Under Saban, every position had to be earned, every rep scrutinized, and every mistake corrected. But from the moment Jalen arrived, there was something different about him. His composure, his work ethic, and his unshakable focus. He quickly climbed the depth chart, and in Alabama's season opener against USC, he got his moment. When starter, Blake Barnett struggled. Jalen was called in midway through the first quarter. He didn't flinch. Jalen led the Crimson Tide to a dominant 52-6 win, flashing both his arm strength and his running ability. 1 week later, he was named the starter, the first true freshman quarterback to start for Alabama since 1984. The kid from Channelview, Texas, was now the face of one of the most storied programs in college football history. The 2016 season became a showcase for Jalen's calm under pressure. He threw for 2,780 yards and 23 touchdowns, while rushing for 954 yards and adding 13 more scores on the ground. His ability to extend plays, make defenders miss, and lead game-winning drives caught the attention of the entire country. He earned SEC Offensive Player of the Year honors, a rare accomplishment for a freshman, and an even rarer feat for a first-year quarterback in Saban's system. Alabama tore through the regular season, stormed through the SEC championship, and marched into the College Football Playoff National Championship game with a perfect 14-0 record. Their opponent, Clemson, led by quarterback Deshaun Watson. The title game was a back-and-forth battle, and Jalen held his own on the biggest stage. He rushed for 63 yards and a touchdown, and threw for another 131 yards and a score. Late in the fourth quarter, he appeared to seal the win with a 30-yard touchdown run that gave Alabama the lead. But Watson engineered a legendary final drive, culminating in a game-winning touchdown pass with 1 second left on the clock. Clemson won 35-31. Jalen walked off the field with tears in his eyes and a championship ring just out of reach. Still, he had proven something that night. He wasn't just Alabama's quarterback, he was their future. In 2017, Jalen came back stronger. He sharpened his reads, refined his mechanics, and matured as a leader. While his passing numbers weren't as flashy, his decision-making improved and he continued to be a nightmare for opposing defenses. Alabama rolled through the regular season again and reached the college football playoff for a second straight year. This time, the national championship game was against the Georgia Bulldogs, a tough, physical team with a stifling defense. The first half was brutal for Alabama. Georgia's pressure overwhelmed the Tide, and the offense struggled to find rhythm. Jalen completed just 3 of 8 passes for 21 yards. At halftime, Alabama trailed 13-0, and Saban faced a difficult decision. In a move that would shock the football world, he benched Jalen in favor of true freshman Tua Tagovailoa. It was a gut-wrenching moment. Jalen had led Alabama to 2 straight national title games and had only lost 2 games as a starter. Tua entered the game and delivered a legendary performance, culminating in a 41-yard walk-off touchdown pass to Devonta Smith in overtime. Alabama won 26-23. Confetti rained down and the Tide celebrated another national championship. The backup and the transfer, Reinvention at Oklahoma. The 2018 season tested Jalen Hurts in a way no playbook or weight room ever could. After leading Alabama to 2 consecutive national championship appearances and amassing an impressive win-loss record, he found himself in unfamiliar territory, not as the star, but as the backup. Tua Tagovailoa, the hero of the 2017 title game, had taken the starting quarterback job. For most college athletes, especially one with Hurts' pedigree, that would have been a cue to leave. The transfer portal beckoned. Other programs were eager to hand him the keys. And in an era where instant gratification often outweighs loyalty, no one would have blamed him if he'd chosen to walk away. But Jalen stayed. He didn't sulk, complain, or let ego cloud his judgment. Instead, he suited up, showed up, and practiced, like a starter. He mentored younger players, supported Tua from the sideline, and led from the shadows. His humility and discipline didn't go unnoticed by fans, by teammates, and most of all, by Nick Saban. Jalen Hurts, once the face of Alabama football, had become its heart. Then came December 1st, 2018, the SEC championship game. Alabama faced Georgia in a high-stakes rematch of the previous national title game. Tua started, but the Bulldogs battered him all night, and late in the game, he went down with a sprained ankle. The Crimson Tide trailed 28-14 in the fourth quarter. Just like that, Jalen was back under center. He didn't miss a beat. With the poise of a seasoned veteran and the hunger of someone who had waited patiently for redemption, Jalen orchestrated one of the most memorable comebacks in Alabama history. He completed 7 of 9 passes for 82 yards and a touchdown, and added a crucial 15-yard rushing score that tied the game. When he crossed the goal line, his teammates erupted, and the stadium echoed with cheers, not just for the touchdown, but for the journey. Alabama went on to win 35-28, clinching yet another college football playoff berth. After the game, Saban, typically reserved in his praise, called it one of the most proud moments of his coaching career. Not just because Alabama won, but because of how Jalen won, through patience, grace, and perseverance. That moment felt like closure for Jalen, and as the season wound down, so did his time in Tuscaloosa. That December, Jalen graduated from the University of Alabama with a bachelor's degree in communication and information sciences. He had accomplished more than most college athletes ever dream of, both on and off the field. But he knew it was time for a new chapter, one that would give him the opportunity to lead again. In January 2019, Jalen Hurts announced he was transferring to the University of Oklahoma for his final year of eligibility. It wasn't just a strategic move, it was a statement. Under head coach Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma had become a quarterback haven. Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray had each won the Heisman Trophy in back-to-back seasons, and both were now NFL quarterbacks. Jalen was stepping into a system built for high-octane offense, and he had something to prove. From the moment he arrived in Norman, Jalen went to work. He attacked the playbook, bonded with teammates, and prepared for his debut with the same intensity that had defined his career. In the season opener against Houston, he exploded for a school record 508 total yards in his first game, a jaw-dropping performance that silenced any remaining doubters. The rest of the season followed suit. Jalen passed for 3,951 yards and 32 touchdowns while rushing for 1,198 yards and 20 more scores. His dual-threat dominance turned Oklahoma into a juggernaut, propelling the Sooners to a Big 12 championship and yet another trip to the college football playoff. He finished second in the Heisman Trophy voting behind LSU's Joe Burrow, but the campaign had accomplished exactly what it needed to. Jalen Hurts was firmly back in the spotlight, and now NFL scouts were watching. Beyond the stats and accolades, Jalen's time at Oklahoma was a personal renaissance. He had reinvented himself without abandoning who he was. He showed that he could adapt, thrive under a different system, and still lead with the same authenticity that had won hearts in Alabama. Though his college eligibility ended after the 2019 season, Jalen's pursuit of growth never stopped. In May 2023, he completed his master's degree in human relations, another milestone in a journey defined by ambition, resilience, and balance. By the time he entered the 2020 NFL Draft, Jalen Hurts wasn't just a prospect, he was a symbol of perseverance. A player who had taken every detour, every setback, and every doubt and turned them into fuel, and the next stage of his journey was about to begin. The Eagles' call, a controversial pick, April 24, 2020, marked a turning point not just for Jalen Hurts, but for the entire Philadelphia Eagles organization. With the 53rd overall pick in the second round of the NFL Draft, the Eagles made a move that sent shockwaves through the football world. They selected Jalen Hurts. It was a surprising decision that immediately sparked debate among fans and analysts. After all, the Eagles already had a franchise quarterback in Carson Wentz, who had just signed a massive $128 million extension in 2019. Why spend a high draft pick on another quarterback? General manager Howie Roseman defended the move by calling it part of a quarterback factory approach. He emphasized the importance of securing depth and building for the future, but many weren't buying it. Fans were confused, some were frustrated, and others saw it as a lack of confidence in Wentz. But for Jalen Hurts, the external chatter didn't matter. He wasn't focused on controversy. He was focused on contributing. He arrived in Philadelphia with the same mindset that had carried him through Alabama and Oklahoma. Head down, work hard, prove your worth. Jalen's first NFL start came on December 13, 2020, against a Saints team riding a 9-game win streak and boasting one of the league's toughest defenses. But Jalen didn't flinch. He completed 17 of 30 passes for 167 yards and a touchdown, and added 106 rushing yards on 18 carries. His dual threat ability kept the Saints off balance, and the Eagles pulled off a surprising 24-21 upset. It was the spark Philadelphia had desperately needed. The following week, Jalen put together another impressive performance, this time in a shootout against the Arizona Cardinals. He threw for 338 yards and 3 touchdowns, ran for another 63 yards and a score, and nearly led the Eagles to victory. Though they lost 33-26, Hurts had clearly shown he could compete at the NFL level. Over his final 4 games as a starter, he finished with a 1-3 record, but the individual performances spoke volumes. He brought energy, mobility, and leadership to a team that had been stagnant. By season's end, the Eagles were facing a franchise crossroads. Carson Wentz's struggles had reached a boiling point, and the locker room dynamic had shifted. Meanwhile, Jalen Hurts had emerged not just as a backup filling in, but as a legitimate option for the future. His maturity, work ethic, and on-field flashes had won over teammates and coaches alike. Jalen didn't need to prove he was the next star. He only needed to show that he belonged. And by the end of his rookie year, he had done just that. Question wasn't whether Jalen Hurts could start in the NFL anymore. The question now was, how far could he go? Taking the reins, the Sirianni era, Nick Sirianni took over as head coach in 2021, and Jalen became the unquestioned starter. The Eagles went 9-8, sneaking into the playoffs. Jalen threw for 3,144 yards and 16 touchdowns, with 784 rushing yards and 10 scores, tops among NFL quarterbacks. His playoff debut against Tampa Bay was rough, 2 interceptions in a 31-15 loss, but at 23, he was the youngest Eagles QB to start a postseason game. The foundation was set. Then came 2022, the breakout. Jalen transformed into an MVP-caliber player. He threw for 3,701 yards and 22 touchdowns, with just 6 interceptions, while rushing for 760 yards and 13 scores. The Eagles finished 14-3, with Jalen going 14-1 as a starter, clinching the NFC's top seed. His dual threat mastery was on full display. Pinpoint passes to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, bulldozing runs that left defenders grasping air. The tush push, a quarterback sneak behind center Jason Kelce, became unstoppable, a symbol of Jalen's grit. In the playoffs, Jalen dominated. A 38-7 rout of the New York Giants in the divisional round, a 31-7 thrashing of the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship. Then Super Bowl LVI against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Jalen was historic. 304 passing yards, a touchdown, 70 rushing yards, and 3 rushing scores, the most by a quarterback in Super Bowl history. He tied a record with 20 points scored. But a fumble returned for a touchdown and a late Chiefs field goal sealed a 38-35 loss. Jalen walked off heartbroken but unbowed, earning Pro Bowl and second-team All-Pro honors, finishing second in MVP voting to Mahomes. The Wilderness 2023 and doubts. The 2023 season was a gut punch for Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. After reaching the Super Bowl the year before and signing a historic 5-year, $255 million extension, the highest in NFL history at the time, expectations were through the roof. The Eagles looked poised to dominate, and early in the season they did just that. With Hurts at the helm, they soared to a commanding 10-1 record, establishing themselves as one of the league's top contenders and fueling hopes for another deep playoff run. But then, the bottom fell out. Over the final stretch, Philadelphia unraveled, losing 6 of their last 7 games. The defense regressed, the offense became predictable, and injuries piled up. The once disciplined team looked disjointed and unfocused, and while Jalen continued to fight, it was clear something was off. The season ended in a stunning 32-9 loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card round, a performance that left fans shocked and analysts scrambling for answers. Despite the team's collapse, Jalen's stat line wasn't empty. He threw for 3,158 yards and 23 touchdowns, while also rushing for 15 more scores. But he also posted a career-high 15 interceptions, and at times he seemed out of rhythm. His normally cool and calculated decision-making gave way to hurried throws and missed reads. On top of that, his chemistry with head coach Nick Sirianni appeared strained. Sideline body language and press conference tones hinted at internal tension, and soon the media pounced. Was the magic of 2022 just a fluke? Had Hurts plateaued? Through it all, Jalen stayed silent. No public outbursts, no finger-pointing. While critics debated his worth and the media dissected every misstep, Hurts stayed grounded in what had always set him apart: his unshakable work ethic and calm resilience. He didn't deflect blame or throw teammates under the bus. Instead, he owned the struggles and kept showing up, first in the building, last to leave. He let his actions do the talking, not his words. For Jalen, the 2023 season wasn't just about the wins and losses. It was about how he responded when things fell apart. It was a true test of his leadership. He had every reason to get discouraged or lose confidence, but he didn't. In the face of disappointment and public doubt, Jalen Hurts proved something far more important than talent. He showed character. Setbacks are nothing new for him. He's been benched on the national stage, questioned at every level, and doubted, more times than he can count. But each time, he's used the adversity as fuel. The 2023 season was no different. For Jalen Hurts, setbacks aren't the end of the story. They're the start of the comeback. And if history is any indication, he won't just bounce back, he'll come back better than ever. Redemption, the 2024 Super Bowl triumph. The 2024 season was Jalen's rebuttal. The Eagles added Saquon Barkley, bolstering an already potent offense. After a 2-2 start, they ripped off 10 straight wins, finishing 14-3 again. Jalen threw for 2,903 yards and 18 touchdowns with just 5 interceptions, and ran for 624 yards and 13 scores. His postseason was a masterpiece, sweeping the Packers, Rams, and Commanders by a combined 145-77. Then, Super Bowl LAX against the Chiefs, a rematch 2 years in the making. On February 9, 2025, at the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Jalen faced Mahomes again. The Chiefs stacked the box, daring him to throw. Jalen answered, 20 of 26 for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns to Brown and Smith, no picks. He ran for 72 yards and a touchdown, his 10th career postseason rushing score. The Eagles rolled 40-22, avenging 2023. Legacy in the making. Jalen Hurts' rise wasn't linear. It was a jagged path of setbacks, benched in a title game, doubted as a pro, crushed by a Super Bowl loss, met with unwavering resolve. He's won at every level. His stats dazzle: over 14,000 NFL passing yards, 85 passing touchdowns, 4,000 rushing yards, and 60 rushing scores by age 26. But it's his intangibles, calm under pressure, leadership through action, that define him. As Jalen stood on that Super Bowl stage, Lombardi Trophy in one hand, MVP award in the other, he reflected on the journey. "It's been a long road," he said, "but I've always believed in the process." From Channelview to Tuscaloosa, Norman to Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts didn't just rise, he soared, an unstoppable force now etched in NFL history. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel for more content. Thank you.